co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Cathy Nesbitt, and we're going to be talking about worms. Not something that I've ever talked about on this show before, but Cathy is so passionate about worms. We're going to be talking about them, and she told me it's a 22nd anniversary of her worm business. So she's been in worms a long time. Cathy, where can people find you?
Thank you, Tim. I'm excited to be here. So my website's probably the best place. 22 years it's been around. So it's desktop friendly, not really small screen friendly. It's cathyscomposters.com. Cathy with a C.
So I've got to ask you this, because how did you get into worms? What on earth got you? What on earth? Do you like the pun? What on earth got you to get into worms and be a worm advocate?
Yeah. So the quick answer, because it could be take up to 20 minutes. I'm located in Canada, just north of Toronto, largest city. Our landfill closed in 2002, and we started to export our garbage to the US, 1,000 trucks a week. And I had a solution. 6 million people in the greater Toronto area, half live in condos without space to do outdoor composting. This is indoor composting with worms.
So talk to us about what when you say you're using worms, what are you doing with them? Because as I was explaining before we went live, I was doing some gardening at the weekend, and we were digging away, and there was some work, and they're not the most beautiful of animals, but we know that they do a great job. Yeah.
So for people listening thinking, ooh, worms in the house, what are they, free range roaming around? No. So this is the same idea as outdoor composting, which, just briefly, composting is nature's way to convert food scraps, paper, or organic matter, manures and whatnot, into humus or compost that we can add as fertilizer in our garden. So we don't have to add chemicals. So this is the same idea done inside with a container. There are beautiful systems, or for the do-it-yourselfer, just a tote will work. You need a carbon-nitrogen mix. The carbon is shredded paper for the bedding. The worms eat the bedding too. And your food scraps from the kitchen. Kind of that's it. There's lots of instructions online how to do it. It's an aerobic process, meaning with oxygen. So although you're adding rotting food, it doesn't smell like rotting food. So the worms breathe oxygen like we do. So if it smells bad, if it smells like rotting food, action is required. It's become too wet or too something, and the worms, anyway, action is required. They're living creatures.
So go through that again. So if I wanted to have so the important thing is that what we're doing is that we are getting rid of cardboard, potato peelings, or whatever it is. We're getting rid of that without throwing it away or letting it go to landfill.
Oh, can I change the verbiage? Instead of saying getting rid of, because that sounds like it's a bad thing, we're converting it. The worms are the original.
We're converting it,
right? The worms are they're alchemists, so they can convert what we call garbage into black gold.
Right.
So yes, we're converting it on site, so we don't have to throw it away. It's a resource, so it's good for us to use it on site.
So where would I buy a worm farm from?
There's lots of places online. I mean, I'm in Canada, so I ship locally. Worms, I would suggest getting them in your country for sure, because they're living creatures. They don't travel that well over days of travel. There's lots of growers. I suggest that there's probably growers in every country.
Okay.
Pretty
so
much.
I know my sister-in-law has she has 7 worm farms, because they have an allotment. She's Polish. She actually imported some worms from Poland because she wanted to actually do an A/B test to see whether the Polish worms were better than the UK ones or what. But so when we do that, we've got a box or something, a tin. We've got worms in it, and what we do is that we put our potato peelings and stuff in that, and they basically turn that into
Into soil, into humus. So the worm poop,
Hmm.
castings is a fancy
I
word.
wanted you to say it first.
The casting is a fancy word for worm poo, and it's compost is great. Worm compost is greater. It's more processed by nature, and each little casting is it's water soluble. It's like a time release capsule. The earth takes from it as it needs it. It's really it's beautiful plant food. So it's the plants and the worm compost have this incredible symbiotic relationship. So it's creating a wonderful immune system. And I do a lot of workshops, and I say to the kids, if we have an immune system, like a really healthy soil, it's like if we're really healthy and we're looking after our body and we're taking good care. If somebody's sick next to us, we might not get it, or we'll get it less because our immunity is strong. Same with the soil. The pathogens are always present. They just can't get there because the other pathogens are, or the good bugs are outnumbering them.
So what we're doing really is we're turning it into a fertilizer, aren't we? And it's the worm poo, which is the natural fertilizer that we can put on our in our gardens, or if you've got a vegetable patch or something like that.
Yes, exactly. So we think about, people ask me, can this be scaled up? Yes, but my goal, when I started in '02, my goal was worms in every living space, every home, every classroom, not just one in a school as a project. Like, this is something that's there as part of the waste management system. Every business, every community, worms everywhere. Obviously, 22 years in, we're not there yet. Thank you for having me on, right? Your first one talking about this, worms on your program. Yeah, there's a ways to go, and I really appreciate the opportunity because I believe that this is the way. And when we're composting, we've got this beautiful soil, so we can grow more nutrient-rich food, right? So we're more involved in the whole system of our life. We don't just go to the store. That's not where food comes from. It comes from the ground.
Well,
Or
one of the things that my sister-in-law was telling me about the worm poo, she said it was just, she said if you could go out and say, dream me up a fertilizer, the best fertilizer in the world is worm poo. Better than anything else.
it is, and you can use it sparingly. You can mix it with other soil, like crappy soil, and then boom, that soil's good. It's the microorganisms. It's living soil. Compost is alive. So you don't want to store it. If you buy potting soil or, composted manure, whatever you're buying, triple mix, whatever you're buying, if it's in a bag and it's sealed, it's pretty much dirt because there's no life in there. It's aerobic. Plants always require aerobic bacteria to grow. We've been so removed from the natural process. This is a way for us to get reintroduced to the way nature intended. And when we're growing our food, we're managing our scraps. We don't need to truck it around. We're slowing down. And when you grow your own food, first of all, it tastes delicious, and you're not wasting it, which is a big problem in today's society. There's lots of food for the world. There's no reason for anyone to be hungry. There's lots of food. It's it's transportation, it's politics. There's a lot of things getting in the way. So this is a way for us to slow down and grow our own food, and we're not going to waste it because we took time watering it, weeding it, and taking care of it.
And I think one of the things that you said about a worm farm is that we could have it in our apartment. It doesn't. We can actually be like a flat or an apartment, and we could have our own worm farm in that, as well as having one in a house or whatever, couldn't we?
Absolutely. And then you can have, if you have windows, hopefully you do. I mean, people say I live in the basement, which hopefully you have a little window and you can still grow some greens, some sprouts. You can still grow something or a little plant because the soil is so rich. I'm amazed. Oh, Tim, I find the most amazing things in my worm bin. I do school workshops, so I'm very excited about finding things growing. And I'll plant things. I'll be eating a date that has the pit still in it, and then I'm like, oh, I wonder. I'll put that in and forget about it. And then when I'm harvesting that worm bin, which is separating the worm from the compost, I'll find this thing. And sometimes I don't even know what it is. It's like, oh, I wonder what this is that's growing. And then I remember, oh yeah, I had that date. This is a palm tree. What? Oh my gosh. And avocado seeds, in school, sometimes they put toothpicks and then
You put
have them
toothpicks
dangle.
and then you put them on water. Yeah.
Sometimes they grow, sometimes they don't. They almost always 100% will grow in the worm bin because everything's there to get them started. Same with mango pits. Oh, it's super exciting and a wonderful, like I said, it's not just a project, but what a great project to engage the kids. With the problem with today is there's so many urban jungles that the children aren't even exposed to forest, never mind worms. If we're not exposed to something, why do we care about it? When they say they're going to cut down the forest, who cares? If you've never been there, you don't even what you don't know what you're missing or the role that it plays. So by getting children engaged back in nature, it's beautiful. It's gonna be hopeful for the future going forward.
So in terms of, we get our worm bin, we get some worms, we what was it you said, you put some paper in the bottom, and then what happens to that? What do we do with it as that goes forward?
Yeah, then you're adding your food scrap. So it's your prep food, like your peels rather than the plate scrapings that have the salt and ketchup or whatever on it.
Okay, so what you're looking for is the natural thing rather than something that's got ketchup on it.
Right, or gravy or something. That's right, because that might be harmful to the worms.
Right.
The more you chop it, the more exposed surface, the faster it breaks down, the more the worms can eat. You're burying the food in the bedding. So you pull back the bedding, bury the food in the shredded paper, and make sure it's covered so you don't get fruit flies. Also, decomposers, they don't cause humans they don't carry disease. They just bug us because we call them bugs. Right, they're part of the natural process.
These things that you get, they're just because they're small, aren't they? Because they're annoying, aren't they?
They're annoying. They bug us. Yeah, absolutely. So they're not a necessary component. Some management is required. If you have them outside, beautiful. They're decomposers. You don't want to have them in the house. So you bury your scraps. But you're burying back and forth around, and then the worms are going to eat the paper and the food scraps, and then you're going to have that beautiful black gold. Like you can almost watch them. You can't because they don't like the light, but you can almost see the material reducing in volume.
Yeah, my sister-in-law has one in the garage, which I guess because it's dark. And she works at a nursing home, and I saw her one evening. She had all of the cardboard that the nursing home, and she was taking home, and it was being recycled. It's going for her worms.
I know that I would be good friends with your sister-in-law.
But when I saw it, it was that when I saw her walking out with all this cardboard, thinking, because when I put the cardboard out, even though it's being recycled, it's like, is it really being recycled?
Right.
You're telling me, the council's telling me it is, and it's like when it was like, it's like, wow. So every time I look out now of the window on Fridays, as when our bins are collected, and I see all this cardboard, I think of worm farms. I'm thinking, just think that what we could do, and it would be amazing.
Wouldn't it be amazing? Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for saying about the cardboard. It's such a wonderful resource. I go around and collect boxes from like the pharmacies, when they put out the toothpaste and the soaps and all that stuff. Those boxes are the perfect size for shipping a pound of worms.
Right.
So I haven't bought boxes for shipping because I just why would they just throw them away? Well, they recycle them, hopefully. And yeah, it's so I save money. I'm saving them being recycled. They're being reused and then hopefully get recycled after they've been used for shipping. Yeah, there's so many ways. And where there's less newspapers now, but we had all these little community newspapers. For about 18 years, I collected all the overs of our local newspaper. I would just go, it would be like maybe 50 or 100 papers a week. It was once a week little paper, just the little community one, talking about, the community gossip. I miss them so much because now all we get is like news about Canada. I mean, that's nice, but it would be nice to know what's going on in my neighborhood.
Oh yes, we the free newspapers that we had. Yeah. Um, and the thing, but they also use the cardboard because they've got a no dig allotment. So they use when they start with the planting stuff, they put cardboard over the top because what they're doing is that they're, in effect, that's a way of I'm out of my depth here. But I believe they're doing something with the worms when they've done and it's in the soil and anyway they use all the cardboard across the top of the soil as well.
Yeah, there's sort of lasagna composting. So you do
That's
layers. Yeah, you have your carbon, your cardboard, paper, leaves, whatever, and then you have your nitrogen, coffee grounds, tea bags, food scraps, and then and you just have layers, and yeah, you don't need to dig. You don't even need a shovel. It's so
and we
beautiful.
throw all this stuff away.
Right? It's marketing, Tim. It really is just like we're such a quick, disposable society. We've forgotten all of these simple ways. Our life would be so much simpler if we managed this stuff on site and we grew our own food, and like not all, but some. And then we share, like you talk about allotment garden. We call them community gardens here.
Mm.
And then you share, like one person grows tomato, one
Yeah.
grows lettuce, one grows cukes, then you've got a salad. How wonderful. Then you
Yeah,
have a community supper.
I always go and see my brother in the summer because I always come away with a bag of. Would you like some beetroot? Oh yeah. And would you like some tomato? Oh yeah. And they always taste brilliant.
That's it. That's it.
So if we did that, we could reduce fossil fuels.
Right? We can, yes, it's one of the contributors. We talked about food waste. There's food waste and like the food that gets wasted on the vine and in the fields and in transport. So the fossil fuels of transporting all of this kind of food that gets wasted. And then on the household level, yes, we don't have to truck it around. We can turn it into something. It's really, food waste food waste is one of the things that we can all do to help mitigate climate change. It really is.
One of my team is in France, and he put out a post recently because that he in his local supermarket there was blueberries, which they grow in France, except the blueberries had been shipped from Peru.
Wow, Peru.
So just think about the ship and the lorries and
it's heartbreaking. I did a project early on in my business. I wanted to know what a grocery store. I needed more food for my worms, and so I went to a grocery store, and it was interesting. I had to go to a couple of grocery stores. One guy wanted me to pay him for his waste. He was like, "Well, you're going to make money down the road." I'm like, "I'm going to save you money on hauling it. Are you kidding? I'm taking it."
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to pay you. But so I went to another one. For anyone listening, don't take the first no. If you're on a mission, like find the person who's on board. And I met this environmental produce manager, and he said, "Yes, you have to come every day. You have to come at 3 every day, because that's when we move that stuff out." So okay, like someone taking the rusty leaves and the apples and the thing that doesn't look good, right? So they don't get the fruit flies and the rodents in store. So I went every day every day for 1 month, and I collected 3,300 pounds of stuff. And this was a small little grocery store, not like the giant super centers that we have today. I was like, oh my gosh. And one day, I mean, I went around to places because a lot of this food was still edible. It was still edible, just the new stuff had arrived. And one day there was 20 cases of bananas, not just a bunch or two, and oh, wow. I was like, no, this isn't worm food ready. Now I got to wait till it rots before I can feed them. No, some people are hungry. I drove around. I mean, I talking about fossil fuels. I drove around. I went to the nursing home. They said, oh, that was an exercise too in people. Like, oh, you got to talk to the administrator. You got to talk to the head cook. Oh my God, I'm giving you bananas. They took a bite. They didn't even, wow. It was crazy. It was chaos. Because I thought, wow, these bananas, they didn't grow in Canada. They grew in the Caribbean. They came over there. They ended up at the food terminal. They came by truck to Bradford, and then they didn't even make it to the shelf. They're just headed to, like, what kind of a business model is that? No wonder groceries are so expensive.
There's a coffee shop that we often go to. When the first time we went to it, we cycled there. And the first time we went to it, we said, "Why is there all this bread and all these vegetables?" And they said, "Just help yourself." And we said, "What? Help yourself?" I said, "That's a really good loaf." They said, "Yeah, basically it's stuff that one of the supermarkets, Marks and Spencer's, that's thrown away. We get all their waste." So
Wow.
we never know as a coffee shop what we're going to make, because it all depends on what Marks and Spencer's throws away. But it's the whole of their coffee shop is based on waste.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah,
It is, yeah. And they just said, if you want a loaf of bread, you can walk away with it for free. We wouldn't be nice if you made a donation. There's an art centre there, and they have plays on and stuff like that, so you know where the money's going. But it was like I said, if you don't want to pay anything, just help yourself.
See, we need more of those, and it is coming. Oh my gosh, whenever I don't eat in fast food restaurants very often or take out food. Whenever I did, I mean, this is for 20 years now, I would take my own containers. I know it's more common now. Even the shop owners would mock me, like, "Oh, look at her, carrying her." I'm like, "I'm saving you money. Don't you have kids? Like, I'm saving you money. You don't have to buy this stuff. You don't have to dispose of it when I throw it away." Why you should be encouraging your customers and give a discount even.
Cathy, thank you so much for coming on and talking about worms. I'm actually going to mention that because I want you to support you, is you also do laughter yoga.
I do.
And if anybody watching this, and there's actually quite a lot of people watching this, if you've noticed, Cathy has a very infectious laugh. I thought you were going to laugh for us. She actually has a very infectious laugh. And we don't have time to talk about that. Maybe another time. But Cathy, thank you so much for coming on and talking about worms. It's been fascinating, and I hope people have enjoyed it. Where can people find you?
Cathy'sComposters.com, and I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you. And if people are interested more in worms, then to reach out to you as well.
Yes, I hope they do.
Okay. Thank you.